Hey guys, it's Melissa here from melissaoatman.com. Welcome to another episode of Awaken Your Inner Awesomeness. I'm so delighted you're here with me. Today we're going to be talking about how to get your creative juices flowing. But before we get started with today's episode, we do have a word from our sponsor. All right, guys, I want to take a second to give you a peek behind the curtain of the podcast industry. No surprise, it's a bit of a boys' club. Only about 28% of charting podcasts are hosted by women, even though women audiences listen to podcasts 20% more than men. Women also control only 85% of household purchasing power in the US. So the question is, why are our voices undervalued in this space? One company that's working to solve this problem is Ossa Collective. I am so proud to be a member of this platform that connects women podcast creators with advertisers to amplify and support underrepresented voices. Having a monetized partner like Ossa means that I'm in control of the advertisers you hear on this show, while increasing my potential earnings with other partners. If you'd like to support Ossa's efforts and learn more about the company, they're running a crowdfunding campaign on Start Engine to become one of the first podcast networks owned by its listeners and members. That's you and me. Just visit startengine.com/Ossa. That's startengine.com /Ossa, O-S-S-A, to learn more. And I would personally like to thank Ossa for sponsoring this episode. Ossa is a platform for women podcast creators that elevates and supports underrepresented voices in this space. And again, you can support Ossa by visiting startengine.com/Ossa. There is an energy going on right now with everything happening astrologically that is bringing about a need for us to get very creative and to get in touch with our creative side. Creativity is super important. It can help us to release emotions. It can help us to feel better mentally. And when we create, we sometimes end up creating things that makes beautiful things for others, that helps others. For example, if you create a podcast, you're creating content that can help other people work through their lives. Or if you create a blog, or you write a book, or if you paint a piece of artwork, someone else appreciates that beauty. So it's not even something that you're just doing for yourself, although it can be. It can also be something that creates a ripple effect. And as Maya Angelou once said, you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. And I love that, and I think it's so true. But the problem comes when we feel stuck, when we're not really sure how to get our creative juices flowing. We want to create things, but maybe we just feel stuck and not able to do that. And believe me, there are times when I sit down to write or to do a podcast where I feel that stuck feeling. So today I'm going to give you some practical tips for how to get your creative juices flowing. First, I want to explain why it's important for you to create. And then I'm going to give you some advice or some ideas for how to get those creative juices flowing again. So why is it good to be creative? What are the benefits of having a creative outlet? When we think of creativity, we sometimes think of just sculptures or painting, but it's actually more than that. It's just using your imagination. So baking is another way to have a creative outlet. In fact, I was watching a show last night and it was really interesting. It was on, it's BuzzFeed is the channel, but it was through, I think, either Netflix or Hulu. I'm not sure which one. But it was about this guy who really enjoys making large-scale food. So his friend had a birthday coming up and he said, "Can you make me a huge cheeseburger?" And now you may be thinking like, okay, so what does this have to do with creativity? But he shows you his whole process in how he makes the things. So he starts with the dough, and he has to make this huge bun, and then he has to make the hamburger patties. And he shows you step by step the whole process of how he does this. And he's done it with many different foods. Like he did a huge slice of pizza. He did a huge donut. And all of these things interested me. I was like hooked into the show because I loved watching his creative process. And to me, what better way to be creative than through food and through cooking and things like that? So it was really interesting for me to watch this show. I enjoyed it, and some of you might enjoy checking that out too. But why is it important to really tap into your creative process? Why is it important to have a creative outlet? Creativity can include things from painting to sewing to woodwork to baking. So many different forms of creativity. It can also include working with flowers and plants. I know a person too who's a teacher, and just suddenly she had this huge interest in plants, and so she planted flowers all over her backyard, created a greenhouse, and is actually now delivering flowers to people. She sort of has her own on-the-side florist delivery business. And that's interesting because something that just was a creative outlet for her is turning into a career. And that's why I say it's really important, because you never know if tapping into your creative outlet could turn into a career for you. For example, I wrote a book, and that was simply me tapping into my creative outlet just to try to get out some of the emotions that I was feeling. Creativity is the way that your brain processes and uses input. Engineers and inventors, they do this all the time. What they're really doing is resolving problems, but in the process of resolving a problem, they're creating things. So when you create, in essence, you're also solving your own problems. It's helping you to process everything that your brain is trying to process. So it really gives you a great outlet for getting rid of stress, for working through emotions that you're feeling that might be tough. And you can create something really cool and beautiful in the process. That's why it's important to be creative and to use your creative energy to really, as the word says, create. You're creating new things. So how can you tap into that creativity when maybe you feel like, I don't have a creative bone in my body, I don't know what to do, I feel stuck? Well, first of all, let me tell you that everyone is creative in one way or another, whether you realize it or not. You may think you're not the type of person who's good at decorating homes, but there's some way that you are creative. We all are. Everyone has a creative outlet somehow. The first thing that you need to do is to get grounded. Grounding yourself eliminates distractions, and part of the way that we feel stuck is if we are all over the place. If our energy is everywhere and we're not grounded, it's easy to feel stuck and like you really can't get creative. So pay attention by doing a grounding exercise. And there's so many ways you can do that. I have a grounding meditation on my YouTube channel that's free. But grounding can be as easy as simply sitting, closing your eyes, and imagining energy coming down from the top of your head into your body and all the way out through the bottoms of your feet and into Mother Earth. Grounding can be walking outside in the grass, connecting to Mother Earth. There are a lot of ways that you can get grounded. And it doesn't matter what you do, whatever you want to do that works best for you, it's perfect. So get yourself grounded, because that can help you to really focus that attention and energy so you're not all over the place. Listen to inspiring music. Music can really get the creative juices flowing. Sometimes I like to listen to classical music if I'm trying to be creative, because for me, there's a lot of energy in that, and that really helps me to feel energetic, and it really motivates me for some reason. And you have to find what motivates you. It may be that, it may be other things. Everyone is different, so you have to find things that will motivate you. But for me, it's classical music, or even listening to just inspirational music. I have a lot of playlists. Those solfeggio tones, those also work. And those are raising your energy as you listen to them anyway. So whatever you find that makes you feel good. Sometimes for me, just blasting the song that I'm a Warrior, love that song, and it inspires me. So if you know that there's certain types of music that you really like, Make a playlist for yourself, put it on your phone, and say to yourself, okay, I need to sit down and I want to get my creative juices flowing. I want to write, I want to paint, I want to do this, I want to do that. I want to create jewelry, I want to sew, or I want to knit. Whatever you want to do, have that playlist ready to go so that it inspires you as you work. It's also important to go inward. We need to sit in silence sometimes in order to get guidance. And when I was writing my book, I tell people this all of the time, that I feel like it was more channeled than anything, that it was coming from a source other than myself, because the words just poured out and flowed. It sounded better to me than what I think I write. So if we can become centered and grounded and take time to sit in stillness, inspiration will usually come. The problem is that we are constantly bombarded with different things that have our attention, so it's hard to stay focused. But if we can get centered and come back to a place of attention, we'll start to really feel that guidance coming to us. Also, it's really easy to get burnout. So if you're doing the same things over and over again, you can tend to kind of lose that spark. So instead of trying to motivate yourself to do things you don't want to do, instead maybe start over and try something completely different. There is no shame in starting over. I remember I went to a painting class one time, and I had never painted before, and this was not one of those ones where you paint by numbers, or it's like you have to recreate the painting. We had to bring in a picture of something we wanted to paint. And so it was completely our own creative input, and then we had to try to paint it, and the instructor just came around and kind of gave us tips and helped us out here and there. So I created this picture of the ocean, and with the guidance of the instructor, I think she was just a really good instructor, because I created this thing and I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm a painter now. I can paint. And so I started buying all of this stuff to paint, and I started painting, and then I started getting frustrated with it, because I'm like, okay, this doesn't look anything like what it looked like when I worked with this instructor. So instead of taking lessons or doing whatever, I began to feel more bored by it and frustrated, and it wasn't making me feel that spark anymore. So I just stopped working at it, because I thought that was interesting for the time being, and it did serve its purpose, but it's not where I want to go long term. So it's perfectly fine to have things that you do creatively for a while and then you stop and you do something else. That's okay. It's totally up to you. That's the amazing and wonderful thing about life. You can change your mind at any point. You don't have to keep doing the same thing over and over again just because you've always been doing it. So find new things that really create that spark in you, because if you're doing the same thing constantly, you are going to burn yourself out and you're not going to want to do it. So try to keep things fresh by trying new things. Look for things that can challenge you, like learning a new language, or perhaps looking up new recipes and trying different foods, where you're not only doing something that's creative, but you're also exploring and discovering new things that maybe you never would have in the past. That's always a fun thing to do. When you try new things, you actually learn more about yourself, like what are your likes and dislikes, and then you can pick more things that are similar to the things that you like. You say, well, I know I like this, so I want to try this. So it really does open up the doors for a lot of things. Another thing that's helpful is creating a vision board. I love vision boards. I think that they are awesome, and they can help keep you motivated. Plus, they're kind of fun to build. I just use Pinterest for mine. And when I wanted to write a book, I had all of these inspiring quotes there about writing and about being an author. And that helped to keep me motivated to keep going. Like, this is your dream. This is where you want to go. Keep going with it. Plus, vision boards themselves are very creative, and it's a creative outlet. So you can have fun going crazy making your vision board, putting all of the beautiful pictures and things that you want there, or finding the quotes. That was a lot of fun for me to do, and I really enjoyed it. Reading a good book is another way to get inspired. because I don't know about you, but when I read, I escape to a totally different world. In fact, I can get completely lost in a book, and I've been able to do that since I was little. And I know there's some people who say, I don't like to read, and that's okay if that's not you, but even listening to an audiobook can help you do the same thing. But when I read, I really envision the characters as the author describes them, and I really get into the story. And in fact, there have been times when books have been made into movies, and I thought that the book was much better in my imagination than in the director's imagination. So getting lost in a book can also spark that creativity. In the same way that when you listen to podcasts, you can also be inspired by other people. Or perusing social media sometimes. There are Facebook groups that can help us to get inspired, or maybe you find ideas on Pinterest. There are all kinds of ways that you can find people who will motivate you and be your cheerleaders. So take time to look around in those social groups. Another thing that a lot of people don't think about is traveling. Traveling to new places sparks creativity. I know it's safe to stay in one place all of the time, and people think that you have to have a lot of money to travel, but that isn't necessarily the case. You can take day trips to different places, explore what's around you. There are times when people will post things on Facebook, and I'll see a really cool park or a lake or someplace that's like an hour away from me, a totally doable day trip, but I didn't even know the place was there because I have not explored my own area of Illinois so far. So I'm sure that there are places that you could travel, or museums to visit, or different expositions to go and see, visiting art museums. There are a lot of ways that you can spark that creativity. And journaling about it too. Journal to get your thoughts out, but also journal like, how would I like to be more creative in my life? And in what ways can I use my creativity more in my everyday life? Take a chance on yourself and tap into your creativity, because beautiful things come from that. And when we don't use our creativity, we could be robbing others of being able to enjoy our gifts. So just think about that the next time you say you can't, or you don't have it in you, or you don't want to do it. There may be people out there, an audience, waiting for you to get going and to get that creative side flowing, because they're waiting for what you're going to create for them so that you can then inspire others. All right, guys. Well, I wanted to pull a card for you today, and the card I pulled is called Ancestral Wisdom. It says, "We are your ancestors and we love you. We walked the earth many years before you. And we ask that you, at this poignant time, you learn and grow from our experiences. You are our legacy, and we will keep on helping you as you continue to evolve here in the spirit world." All right, I love that. So I think, this message has to do with the fact that you have people on the other side wanting to help you with your creativity. So ground yourself, sit in stillness, motivate yourself, and just do it. Do the thing already. The longer you wait, the more time you're robbing for people to really share and enjoy your creative side. All right, guys. Well, as always, I hope you have a beautiful day from wherever you're listening. I am sending you so much love and light, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.